Sponge Cake. Today I'm getting ready to go on a date with my boyfriend to our favorite ice cream place called Soon Scoops. It's basically this anime themed ice cream shop located in Long Beach, California, and not only is the concept like really cool and every flavor is anime themed, the ice cream itself is like actually really freaking good. You can taste the fact that it's handmade like in the shop. They switch up the flavors every week and they don't really skimp out on the servings either. Like they always give you a healthy portion, which I really appreciate because you can't really find that anymore. Like you feel the love in every serving is basically what I'm trying to say. Even if we're like having a bad day, we're like, wanna go to Soon Scoops? Yeah, and we just go to Soon Scoops and immediately our day is better. So for today's date, I'm kind of feeling in a pink mood, kind of somewhere in between kawaii and gyaru. I don't think I'm gonna go too hard on the gyaru side though. I'm just, you know, kind of giving an idea of like where I'm leaning. But honestly, who cares about the names? I'm just gonna start pulling out colors. I don't know how much I've covered since from my previous videos, but for like the longest, I was working on passing my driver's test because yeah, your bitch is 25 and she still didn't have a license. I know, super late. But you know what? When you grow up in New York City, there are some things that you don't need, and it's definitely not a car. I said that in a weird way. Apparently, I moved to the city where it's the complete opposite, and you know, for a while I thought, you know, maybe I can get away without one. Even thinking about if I might get away without one, I still wanted to learn just so that I know how, and like, you know, you never know what might happen. You might need to drive, you might need to escape sometimes. There was like this book that I was reading, or maybe it was a movie, I can't remember, but there was like a scene where a couple of girls got kidnapped and they really had to find ways to escape, and one of the main ways that they escaped was by stealing the guy's trailer. Is it a trailer or a truck? One of those truck things. And they didn't know how to drive, but they made it work. They made it work. And ever since then, I think about that a lot. Like, what are the situations in which I'm like really in a pickle and I wish I knew how to drive, but then I can't and I'm screwed, you know? So because of that alone, that scene alone, I decided, yeah, I'll learn how to drive. Eyebrow. So yeah, as I was saying, I was working on my driver's license for a solid 5 months, I think. Since November, I was taking driving lessons, and then Rudy was extremely helpful in letting me borrow his car to basically practice as like nonstop, because no one told me that when you're learning how to drive, you can't take pauses in between each class. I was doing it weekly, but apparently even weekly wasn't enough. And people did mention that like the more you drive, the better, but people say that about anything. People say that about, you know, the more fruits you eat, the better. You know what I mean? Like, so I didn't really internalize that until I started practicing in between lessons with Rudy, and I improved like tenfold immediatly. Like I was immediately so much more comfortable in the car. And I think a lot of it was also the fact that I wasn't being like micromanaged. My instructor was great, don't get me wrong, she was amazing, and I do owe a lot of my success to her in passing the test. But I think that once I reached a certain stage in my learning process, continuing to rely solely on her lessons was actually starting to hinder me, because like the car that you use in order to practice with like those lessons, they have like 2 brakes and 2 gas pedals. They don't have 2 steering wheels, but I mean, they might as well with the way that they be going. And basically what that meant was sometimes I think that like she would like be pressing the brake or like stuff like that, like out of reflex, and she wouldn't notice. So then she'd be like, no, go faster. And like, I can't because her foot's on the brake. And then finally she lets it go and like I can go. So like little things like that would throw me off sometimes. Or like, sometimes she wouldn't let me make mistakes. So like if she saw that I'm about to make a mistake, she would tell me immediately like what to do in the situation. And like by making mistakes, I don't mean like literally driving into a car. I wasn't in that stage of I can drive right into oncoming traffic, or like my speeds weren't normal or whatever. Like it was more like what to do in order to pass the test. Like I was at the stage where I know how to drive, Now I just need to drive the way that the examiners need me to drive. So that was that next stage, and partially what made it so frustrating was because having her kind of handhold me through that kind of just hindered me from like gaining the confidence that I needed. So once I was borrowing my boyfriend's car, the fact that there was no second gas pedal or second brake, that meant that it was all on me. And yeah, I could have freaked out. Sorry, I like can't multitask. So I think I'm choosing one of these makeup palettes, probably pink. Actually, no, I'm gonna do like the pinkish, the rose gold that I have. Like, I could have freaked out, like, oh my God, like it's all on me now. But like, honestly, I think that once I started driving, I saw it did just fine without all of those like training wheels. That actually ended up being the thing that really made me gain confidence, because it made me realize, oh, like I do know how to drive like without external help for the most part. The more that I trusted myself, the better I did. Story time. I've been trying to pass my driver's test for, I think, 6 years? Yeah, I had been trying to learn for 6 years and pass. And very first time I took the test, I didn't even drive. It was in New York. I think my test was in Coney Island. And I literally like started the ignition, was about to pull out, and they were like, automatic fail, dangerous maneuver. Some guy was doing a U-turn on the other side. So like there was like a, I don't know what you call those. I'm gonna call it an island, even though I know that's not what you call it, but it's like this divider, but it's not just a divider between like the two lanes. It's like, there was like grass on it and stuff. So it was like a pretty wide street on both sides too. So there was a car going the other way on the other side. I was going the opposite direction on the other lane, and as I'm pulling out, I look in the mirror, I see that car about to do a U-turn, right? All the way back there. Like, he's all the way back there, turning to come this way. In that 0.25 seconds of judgment, I was like, I can make that. It's not even like I didn't see it. I did see it. I just figured I could make it if I just like maneuvered out quick enough. And the examiner did not like that. They were like, automatic fail, dangerous maneuver. You want to wait until it's completely clear before you do something like that, before you pull out. Mind you, this was definitely a clear like scenario where like I was operating with the mindset as like of like a New Yorker, and not just a New Yorker, a New York driver. And let me tell you, New York drivers drive insane. They do all kinds of shit that they shouldn't be doing. So I was kind of operating with that kind of mindset of like, I guess the thing I'm trying to say is that New York drivers, like, we drive aggressively. They're less so defensive, they're more so just like assertive. And even if they see something coming, like, they'll just drive faster to make sure that they make it. But you know, me being a student who's trying to pass the test for the first time, that is not something they want to be seeing. You need to be on your best behavior. You can't be doing stuff like that. And honestly, like looking back, I'm glad I didn't pass that time, because that would have been a really bad mindset to start driving in. I'm a much safer mindset, a much safer driver. I wait until it's completely clear. Yeah, I'm not like perfect. Yeah, I might do some things that are a little questionable, especially for like the DMV, but like I can drive safely and I can make pretty good judgment in the moment. So I'm trying to decide if I should use eyeliner. I'm not. I'm gonna use, this is too dry. I'm gonna use my lashes. So second time I failed because my speed was too high. And honestly speaking, I think that I got psyched out because the examiner had awful vibes. The second they got into the car, bad vibes immediately. Like they didn't even establish any rapport, didn't ask how I'm doing or say good morning, nothing. They just got in the car, their face was mean, like was just like, let's go. Like I could tell that there was just something off with this guy. It wasn't even like crankiness or just like being generally like a New Yorker where like you're probably gonna be a little bit rude or like you're just not like super like approachable. Like I'm used to that. I'm like that. I used to be like that too. I'm a little bit less like that now that I'm in LA and everyone's just like la 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 sunshine. But in New York, like I could understand like being a little cranky, like not being super approachable. But this guy was just like off. Like there was something wrong. Like you could tell that he actively hated his job and was out to like take it out on people. That was the immediate vibe I got. Every little thing, and it would be very minor too, like, it wouldn't be like I'm putting us in danger, it would be more like I'm doing not what the DMV wants me to do. So like my first little mistake, he was just like, oh my God, like how can you make a mistake like that? Like he was like, oh my God, what are you doing? So immediately from that first scenario, from that first comment, like my mind, like imagine you're already like super nervous to begin with. And the examiner starts making comments like that, boom, you're gonna, like that's it, like you failed. So I started making like silly mistakes. And among those silly mistakes that I normally never did during my lessons, I drove a little too fast. Because in my mind, the speed limit was actually lower than what I thought it should be. And in my mind, I thought I was doing something good by like hitting that speed limit, but apparently he was like, no, you're going way too fast. You're going way too fast. So like, of course that screwed me as well. And then eventually, like, I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back actually, like the speed stuff, because that's also an automatic fail. All the other stuff that he kept like freaking out over, there were like stuff that you get points off for, but they weren't automatic fails, which is another reason why I was like, what the hell, dude? But yeah, so right then and there, like I failed and I was like, all right. That one was annoying. The first time it was just funny. It was like my first time, it was just kind of like lol. But like the second time, it was purely because a mix of having a really bad apple of an examiner and then mixed with my own nerves. So that was a little bit harder to swallow because it felt like it wasn't really my fault. It wasn't really like the fault of my ability. It just honestly felt like bad luck. And that really honestly kind of scarred me, because then it started to feel more like my fate was more on luck than my ability. And the thing that like really like upset me was the fact that that's money spent. Like I'm spending thousands of dollars, and each time, because of a number of life reasons, each time I would take the test and I didn't pass, that meant another year where I didn't have that license, and I had to start over and learning because I couldn't continue taking lessons because my permit was in New York, but I was studying in Boston. So every time I would go back to Boston in order for college, right? And then during that time while I'm in school, I would like basically forget how to drive. And like I remember the main reason why I was trying to learn so like earlier than I like essentially needed to, because you know I still lived in New York. The reason why was because like I was planning on studying abroad in LA. So yeah, like before I moved out here, I did have an internship out here. Actually not one, I had 2 internships because I was trying to be a girl boss along with my like last semester of classes out here. And essentially I was just kind of like, oh, what's going on? Sorry, give me a sec. I wanted to be able to rent a car out here for that semester. So I was trying to speed run learning how to drive in order to rent out a car and be able to get from point A to point B for my 2 internships. Thankfully, I really lucked out and lived with a roommate who happened to work at the exact same company that I was. She was an intern at the exact same place. It wasn't planned at all. It just happened to be that way. And then my other internship was practically walking distance. It was just far enough where I couldn't actually walk there in the morning, but taking an Uber there was really cheap because it was just so close. It was literally right down the street. So that ended up working out. I was so glad. But yeah, after that, I kind of put a pause. Shoot, did I put it backwards? Finally fixed them off camera. I still wanted to learn how, but I needed to save up money again in order to be able to afford those lessons. So I basically spent, I think like a year-ish? No, I spent a few months saving up again with like a new job or a new couple jobs. I was like hustling like crazy that summer, and then I found a new full-time job to help me save up for that. And basically, as soon as I hit my goal, like my savings goal in order to start taking lessons, the pandemic hit! Yay! Really, that made it virtually impossible for me to learn for the next like couple of years. And then mind you, I was also trying to save up to move out to LA still, but I think that somewhere halfway through the pandemic, I was like, screw it, maybe I won't go out to LA anymore, or I just like won't, you know, force it. I'll look at other options. As soon as I started to look at other options, I found a job out here, which was like, yay! right? Like that was like what I had been wanting for like forever. I wanted to move out here, preferably with a driver's license already in hand, but I decided, you know what? I'm not gonna force learning how to drive before I come out. I'll just learn while I'm out here. And honestly, learning how to drive out here has been exponentially easier than back when I was in New York. Exponentially. Finally, I took my first test out here and I still failed. It was such a stupid reason. Again, it was nerves because I did everything perfectly until I rolled over a curb. Mind you, I never roll over curbs when I'm driving, when I'm practicing. Like that's just something I don't do. It's like, it's such a major faux pas that was almost funny. So that was an automatic fail. At that point, I was like, you know what? At this point, I'm just checking boxes of all the automatic fails you can have. First, it was dangerous maneuver. Then it was speed. Now it's rolling over a curb. What's next? So after that, I started really studying that sheet of like all the automatic fails, because people always like tell you like just make sure you don't, like they really focus on like trying not to rack up points. But for me, it wasn't even like the point system. It was the automatic fails, because I would be so like nervous. I would start to do like crazy shit, I guess. And it was so funny because I saw him scribbling on my exam sheet. He wrote, rolled over curb, both wheels of passenger seat elevated. I don't know why that was so funny to me. He was like, he literally wrote it out. I was like, not just one, both. Like that car was tilted. But anyways, I failed. I rescheduled it for 2 weeks later, kept practicing, and then I did everything. I went through every single thing on that checklist to make sure I wouldn't like fail for a stupid reason again. I retook it again. This time I was a lot more mentally at peace, I think. I went in that day thinking, you know what? I'm over it. Like, I know how to freaking drive. I know what I'm doing. At this point, it's up to the universe. It's up to luck. It's up to fate, pretty much. Like, it felt natural to me at that point. So for me to not pass at this point was just like, I felt like I did everything I could. Of course I was still nervous, but I was also with like the calm of like confidence. Like I was nervous, but I was also confident in my ability. And I just like really tried to lean into that mentally. And then finally, I was on the day, it was the day of the test, and then the examiner got in. I was hoping I would get the same examiner again, because he was actually a really cool guy, the first one out here in LA. I don't know why this won't close. Okay, finally closed. Alas, I got somebody else, and I was like, ugh, now I gotta get a read of this guy. Turns out he turned out to be like a fine guy. He was alright. That entire DMV was in Culver City that I took it. The entire DMV was chill, honestly. I'm driving, I'm doing great. I'm like, holy crap, I'm doing so good. I'm not making any mistakes, and I feel like genuinely like calm and like confident in my abilities. I'm like narrating in real time everything that I'm doing to make sure that like we're on the same page, like why I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I have my beads in my hair to make sure the examiner hears when I turn my head, to check my mirrors and my blind spot. I thought about everything, dude. I'm cruising along, I'm doing great, and then I'm about to do a left turn. He asked me to do a left turn like at the next light, and then I get to a stop with a couple cars in front of me. The light changes and I'm waiting for the cars in front of me to go, and the cars ahead do go, but the one right in front of me does not. And I'm like, huh, that's a little weird. It'll take a little bit of a while to move, but you know, I'll give him some time. I'm not in a rush, it's just a test. It's not like I'm trying to go anywhere, it's just, you know, an exam. So I give them, you know, ample time, and then they start waving, like outside their car window, like they start waving. And I'm like, their car did not just break down in front of me in the middle of the street. So at this point, I'm like chuckling to myself. I'm like, of course. At this point, just fuck it. I'm just gonna do what I gotta do. So I go through the motions. I'm checking my mirror, my blind spot, waiting until it's completely clear for me to like maneuver around that car. And at that moment, as I was doing that, I was so freaking thankful that I had practiced as much as I did with Rudy, because I would not have had enough control of the steering wheel in order to maneuver around that car. at least comfortably. Like I probably would have been able to do it, but it would have been a lot jankier. But I did it pretty smoothly, honestly. In my mind, I was like, I don't know if I did this in the best way because, you know, I don't fucking know what the examiners are thinking, honestly. Like, they could think that I maneuvered around the car a little too close or whatever. I don't fucking know. You know, they're always nitpicking, so I was like, whatever. But the good sign was, this time I got to like the very end of the test where you pull to a curb and then like you pull up and you reverse. Thankfully there's no parallel parking in LA, which I had to do in New York. But I got to the very end of the test and I was like, wow, that's a really good sign. Because that means that there's still hope that I passed. Because before that, I never really got to the end of the test. I was always just like, all right, failed, leave. And then when we get back to the DMV, the guy's like,
how do you think you did?
I'm like,
I feel like I could have done better, but you know, it was definitely better than last week.
and then like he asked me
How I felt about like maneuvering around that guy, etc.
and I said like,
Yeah, there's probably better ways I could have done that, but I feel like I did okay, at least. It could have gone worse.
and then he turns to me and he says,
You handled that situation perfectly. There is no better way that you could have handled that situation. You did very well. You weren't even parked. I mean, you weren't even too close to the car where like you would have had to reverse, which showed that like you were maintaining good distance between cars as you were driving and stuff.
and I was
I was like, oh, nice.
and then he said like,
Well, you passed.
you only had one mistake the entire time, and it was stopping a little too far at a stop sign. Like he said that even then he understood why I did that because it was a very awkward street, so it wasn't even really like my fault. So like I basically passed like with flying colors, practically a perfect score, which is insane to think about. Like for LA, like I know I said that LA is significantly easier than New York, but LA is still a city and there's a lot of crap that goes on. I mean, a car freaking broke down in front of me. Like who would have expected that? When I finally got that pass, I was so numb at that point. I imagined the day that I passed my test so many times, and in all of the scenarios I'm crying, I'm shaking, I'm on the ground, like I'm like, oh my god, finally, like imagining how much of a weight lifted on my back it will be. And then the day of, I pass and I'm like, oh, sweet. And it's just, psychology's so weird, man. I told my boyfriend I passed. He was really, really excited for me. He probably showed more emotion than I did when I passed, and we celebrated and stuff, but not once did I cry. Not even, I thought I would cry when I get home because sometimes your emotions are a little delayed. Not even when I got home. I was just like, I passed, on to the next thing. Everything, I was just like, oh, sweet. I can finally really start building out my Pinterest board now to think about my future car. I can actually start doing that now and like it'd be like a real thing and not just me fantasizing. That was like the main takeaway that I had. That's the saga on me driving, and that was all the stuff that was going down while I was pretty much inactive on social media, and I apologize for that. I always think it's gonna be the last time I'm that inactive, and then something else comes up and I end up inactive again. But hopefully over time it'll be less and less frequent, and I'll have a little bit more stability in my life in order to focus more on content, because I really, like, even when I'm not producing content, I'm thinking about producing content, and there was such a long stretch of time where I was thinking about producing content more than I was making, and that feeling is not a good feeling, man. I feel so weird. I feel antsy. I feel like I want to be doing something, but I'm not. So it feels really good to be chatting with you guys again. So thank you for listening to my saga. Now let's go get some ice cream. Y'all think I'm cute? All right, here's the fit check. Got my Hello Kitty and my new Trip pants. I've been wanting pants like these for forever from Trip NYC, and I finally bit the bullet and got them. And yeah, I'm really feeling this outfit. like so many flavors. So we have weeby and cookie dorino, super seaguy salt, Ishigo 1000%, hot chocolate, banani. There's like so many flavors. And of course, always an anime opening. I think I'm probably gonna get cookie dough. Okay, probably like 1 scoop.
1 scoop?
Yes. Thank you. Mochi.
Mochi, yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Have a great
Seeing
one.
you. So good. So that is pretty much it for today. I'm sorry it ended a little bit abruptly, slash was a little awkward and not a lot of footage. Today Rudy wasn't feeling completely great. Also, we just wanted to kind of like be in the moment and catch up on things. But the main thing that was important was the ice cream, seeing the owner there. The ice cream was freaking bomb, so I really recommend you going out there in case you're ever in California or if you already live out here, especially SoCal rather. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And as always, love you guys. Until next time. Okay, I'm done.